Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Summit Knife Company Half Dome. This is a brand new design from a brand new company. Summit Knife is pretty new onto the scene. This is their first offering. They are going to have another one coming out at Blade Show. I know they've been teasing it a little bit on Instagram. Very eager to see it because this one's pretty cool. So I'm eager to see what else they can come out with. I will say off the bat, this was provided to me by the manufacturer. And it is a collaboration with Tommasso Rimici. I've featured another one of his designs a while ago, one I like a lot, the Steel Wheel Piercer. I love that knife, and he designed that. So I was looking forward to that. And I like little big knives like this. As you'll see when we get to specs and stuff, it's a pretty small knife. M390 steel, titanium frame lock with a wire clip. And this particular one is what they call the green micarta. I don't know. Looks pretty brown to me, but that's I've always had that problem. A lot of stuff that people say is green, I think looks brown. It also comes in a black micarta or a full titanium version with a different titanium pocket clip. That is $225. This one is a $175, I believe I said. 179 listed on their site, but most places I see it online, which is pretty much just Blade HQ right now, has it for $175. But it's made by Fox Knives, and you know what? They did a pretty good job with it. I do like Fox Knives mostly. I like their designs a lot. I have had a couple issues with them in the past, but mostly the main issue I've had one issue. The one issue I've had is they were very thick behind the edge. This one isn't. We'll talk about that as we go on. But if you've ever had a Fox knife, this is going to look kind of familiar to you construction-wise. It's got a lot of their usual, signatures, I guess, on it. You would say it's if you know what a Fox knife looks like, this is probably pretty much what it looks like. I think it's a really cool looking little knife. I really like the shape of the handle. It's a bit unique, and even better than that, it works well. We'll talk about that more in a moment. Pretty cool looking design, I think. Kind of a unique blade shape. They call it a reverse tanto, I guess. Yeah, it's barely, but it's almost like kind of like a drop pointy thing. It's more just so that it fits in the handle well. As you see, it makes it fit in the handle right. So but yeah, it works. It's a pretty cool looking knife. I really do like the look of it. I like the look of most of these little big knives. They're kind of fun. Let's do some specs and size comparisons before we get too much farther. I'm going to line this up here against the edge here. These are 1-inch squares on this particular background, and let's get to it. We have an overall length of 6 inches, so you can see not very big. Blade length 2.4 inches. Blade thickness 0.14 inches. Handle thickness 0.42. And a weight of 2.5 ounces. Do some size comparisons here. We'll put it in our usual little Spyderco sandwich. You have the Spyderco Para 3. You can see it's even smaller than that. And so obviously it's going to be much smaller than the PM2. Now, more valid comparisons. Let's bring out some more little big knives, as I like to call them. This is a category of knives I do like a whole lot. We have your Kaiser Mini Sheepdog. This happens to be the titanium version, but the G10 version is almost exactly the same size. It is exactly the same size. And also, these are almost exactly the same in price. So I sense a battle to the death coming up in a little while here. And you have your CRKT Pilar. This is the smaller size Pilar. So you can see that almost exactly the same size as all of those. Now, talk more about this knife. I've already talked about how much I like the look of it. I do think it looks kind of cool. It looks unique. It's really hard to make something that looks unique anymore. But in these little big knives, that's one thing that I say it's hard to make something that looks unique. But those last two knives I just showed you look unique. And that's what I like in this little big knife category. They're just kind of fun. And I feel like designers experiment more in this kind of category. And that's maybe why I like them so much. But I really like the overall looks of it. I think it looks cool. But this blade is also pretty darn good. As I said previously, with Fox, and it's not just Fox, several of the Italian manufacturers are usually a bit thick behind the edge for my taste. This one is not. 19 thousandths behind the edge, 18.5 in a few spots. That's really, really good. I'm completely fine with it. Very high flat grind. 0.14 inch blade stock. It's not the thinnest in the world, but it's pretty average for this kind of category of knife. A lot of these have really thick blades. A lot of them are like 0.16. This isn't that thick. It does slice really well. Came razor sharp out of the box. Has a good tip on it if you want to be piercing stuff. It's obviously a pretty robust little tip up there. It works great. I do really like the blade on this. It was a pleasure to use. No issues with it there whatsoever. Also, as far as the ergonomics go, Yeah, zero issues. This is a really good knife ergonomically. I cannot comment on the titanium one with a different clip, but with this one, no hot spots. You have some really great jimping right where your fingers want to land. It's just perfectly placed to really, get down and use this knife. It is a small knife, but if you live in a place where you have to be under 2.5 inches, this is well under. There's no cop that's going to say it isn't, and it's a really good, you can really still actually do some stuff with this. It's comfortable and easy to use, and you just feel like you could really bear down and get some stuff done. Is it 4 fingers? No, not quite. I mean, even when you're using it how they intend for you to grab it, no, not really. But no hot spots for me at all, anyway, for my hand shape. Jimping up here is a bit aggressive. They could have softened this up a little bit. And we'll talk about that more. There's a lot of edges on this. They could have softened up, well, too. They could have softened this up, and they could definitely soften up the, chamfer off a little bit, or finish off a little bit that deployment hole as well. But other than that, great ergonomically. It just feels very solid and locked in your hand, and I do really like that. Now, as far as the carry goes, again, this is the wire clip version, so we're just only talking about that version here. Carry's pretty good. Slides in out of the pocket super easy. The tension is perfect. You do have just a bit sticking up there for a lanyard hole if you want to put a lanyard on it. I normally rail against lanyard holes, but this is a very small knife. I could totally see why you'd put a lanyard on it. A lot of people like to put them on really small knives. Hand slides by it really well. There's no flipper tab or anything, so it's pretty easy as far as that goes. And it's light, 2.5 ounces. Not bad. It carries pretty darn good, I do have to say. Not many complaints there. Now, deployment, this is not a fidget toy. It just isn't. It is running on phosphor bronze washers. It's not like a total, you got to give it a pretty good flick. It's definitely not, a fidget toy kind of knife. I find that by far the best way to open it is to spidey flick it. The deployment hole is positioned perfectly for that. But as far as thumb flicking it, as I try to do it on behind my camera mount, which is, I never am good at it on the best day, and it's just mounted too far down. Yeah, I got it that time, but it's not super easy to thumb flick. I find it you see, I got my hand in kind of a claw to get to it. It does work very well to slow roll it, though. I will say I do like that thumb hole placement for slow rolling, but the problem is, yeah, this is sharp. This is a very sharp edge. I hope they finish this off a bit. Summit did tell me that they want to hear some criticisms. This is their first knife, their first run, and they do want to hear some criticisms too. And that's my number one, is just make this softer. That would be a lot better. It's pretty sharp. It's like I know people always talk about tie trunk Spyderco's being sharp. This is just as, if not more, sharp than that. So it'd be nice to have that knocked down a little bit. You could do it in 2 seconds, with some sandpaper, but I didn't bother doing it. But yeah, that's a bit sharp. But, and it's okay. It's not going to be a fidget toy. It's definitely not drop shut. You can if you really flick it. But it ain't going to be a fidgety toy for sure. Now, I will say that at first glance, I thought, oh my God, that lockup looks early. But then when you look at it, no, the lock bar insert, which is nice that it comes with one, is fully engaged. It's just that, with that big thick titanium lock bar, but the lock bar insert that's actually doing the locking is pretty much fully engaged, so that's fine. It's at least, yeah, that lock bar insert is at least 90% engaged. So, and I did the stupid useless spine thwack thing that's all the rage right now, and I couldn't make it fail, so I think the lockup is perfectly fine on it. So that goes through everything. What are my conclusions? It's a pretty cool little knife, and I'm glad to see a new company coming out. Like I said, they're teasing something on Instagram that looks cool from the little teasers I've seen. And I love the ergos. I love the look of it. Tommasso Rimici, this is only the second design of his I've ever handled, the other being the steel wheel piercer, which, what I actually have here. Let's bring that out. This is another Tommaso Rimici design. It's a very dirty one because I was using it the other day. But yeah, I like his design language. I'm picking up what he's putting down. It's another titanium frame lock. I'm glad to see another knife company, and they're very, very responsive. Very cool, at least for me so far, to deal with. I'm very happy with that. And overall, pretty happy with this knife. $175? No, not cheap, but it is titanium frame lock M390. It's small, but I can't say it's overpriced for sure. And again, the full titanium one's $225. So go check them out. Summit Knife, I think it's summitknife.com or something like that. summitknifecompany.com or something like that. I don't remember. I'll link to it down below. I'm terrible at remembering URLs. Or like I said, you can find it on Blade HQ, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it other places soon. So this has been your Summit Knife Half Dome review. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Check it out. I've been Brian. Have a good one.